FIDE Master John Curtis, and today all I'm going to do is just review a few of the games I've played over the last day or so. The intention is to basically go through with my grasshoppers with strategy, the openings that I use, discuss those, discuss the strategy that I use in the games, and working down towards endgames and endgame techniques and what tools you should apply in your endgames. And basically I've chosen games where the chess engine has rated the games 88% or higher accuracy, just to make sure that I give you some decent content. And without further ado, I'm going to get into those games. Okay, so we'll start with game one. All the opponents, you'll find that around about 2,200 or higher in rating, so they're all fairly accomplished players. Okay, game one here, we're going to look at I'm playing the white pieces against Harold Dovendam. Harold is 2,215 rating, and he's from the Netherlands. He's got the black pieces. Okay, Chess Engine says that the game was intense and it was a serious game, and we'll just see how the game progressed. Well, I opened up with e4, and Harold, we'll call him Harold Dovendam. He chose the Sicilian defense, controlling a d4 square with this pawn. Played knight to f3 to support the central thrust with d4, and the knight covers that square too, so we're all the action is around the central squares. He plays d6, standard Sicilian move, and we proceeded with d4, which we prepared with our last move as discussed. In this position, you really do have to capture the pawn. That's the main book move. You can see the little book icon there. Okay, and white recaptures with the knight. Now, in this position, if you take with the queen, black might not necessarily play knight hits queen, but he might play bishop d7 first, and then knight hits queen, right? The reason being, if you play queen takes pawn, and the knight hits the queen, well, you can pin the knight. You don't have to move your queen, right? So you can leave your queen in the middle of the board with central dominance. Okay, so he took the pawn. I recaptured with the knight. And the engine says, or the system says, knight takes d4, recaptures the pawn, activates the knight in return for having one central pawn versus black's two central pawns. It's interesting to note black's got two central pawns. You see those two central pawns? Okay, a6. It says that it's an inaccuracy. Knight f6 is usually chosen first. Knight f6 attacking this pawn. Now, what's the difference in the position? How do I take advantage of it? Well, frankly, I don't know, except that c4 takes advantage of it, doesn't it? Right? Oh, did I play c4 though? No. Yeah, c4 would have got a Maroczy bind type position. And excuse me, white would have quite a good game. It's 10:02 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, hence the little yawn. Had a big day. e5. Okay, so Harold chooses e5. Now, when this pawn moves up twice, we'll go back here. In this position, any piece occupies this d5 square. It can be chased away with e6. Now, the interesting part of this idea of e5 is this. Now, this square, which the pawn controls and the knight controls, is perfect what we call an outpost for a piece, such as a knight or maybe even a bishop, right? So as early as this position, white looks to try to dominate the white squares, okay? Also, white looks to try to take advantage of this bishop because the pawns are on the wrong colour, right, to the bishop, hampering the bishop's fluid movements, okay? Okay, rightio. And you'll see that in the endgame of the position. So I play knight f5. Now, I'm not threatening anything there. If anything, perhaps the knight wants to go back here and just pop in there. What a lovely position that would be, eh? But we play knight f5. And he takes it off. Well, the engine says that this is an inaccuracy. It overlooks a better place, better way to develop a piece, right? So obviously knight f6 or knight c6 would be better moves. Anyway, I recaptured. And now, as you can see, I've got this lovely outpost for my knight. He can't really stop it. He played knight to f6. He really wants to play pawn here, right? And use those two central pawns to do something in the position. But I pinned his knight. Apparently it's a mistake. Says this move might cause trouble. Wonder how it could cause too much trouble. Yeah. I don't think it causes too much trouble. That's what the engine says. Right. We won't go into that. Knight b5 to d7. Star move. Best move. Okay. Well, maybe that's the trouble he's talking about. It activates a piece by developing off its starting square, and it connects the rooks and queens, and so their major pieces can now become active, probably along the c file. Okay, right. Okay, bishop c4. In this position here, we have to choose a move, and white wants to castle. White doesn't like the idea of castling queenside, because of pawn here and pawn here, chasing the knight, gaining tempos, and maybe if the queen comes over here, there'd be a big attack down there. So castling queenside is not really an option for white in this position. So white wants to castle kingside. And a logical consequence of that is just playing bishop c4. It controls this, puts another piece on this d5 square. And you might remember that I said that when the pawn went to e5 and relinquished its opportunity to go to e6, it gave away the d5 square as an outpost for a knight or a bishop. And we'll see that happen. It'll all play out very shortly. He played queen c7. It's an inactive move. A better move would have been possibly even b5 or rook c8, right? You know, I just moved my bishop back because he's not causing me any trouble there with his queen. If anything, have a look at his pieces. They're all sort of contained on black squares. You notice he's just left me dominating this white square in the middle of the board. And we all know in chess that central square dominance is often the key to winning or losing a game of chess. Okay. Right, so he castled. Okay, in this position, I thought, well, best thing to do is probably castle myself. But then I saw a pawn, and I thought, hold on, let's rip it off, because it might not be there for too long. That's my logic anyway. Got to remember it's a lightning chess game, this one. But even though it's a lightning chess game, you can see one player's got 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The other one's got myself, I've got 2 minutes and 27 seconds. But either way, the standard is still fairly high once you get over 2200. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, so I castled, and he played h6. Now, what does that? What colour square does that pawn occupy? Well, it covers a black square. Excuse me for laughing. I moved my bishop back. It's an inaccuracy. It says I overlooked a better way to threaten to win material. I think what the engine's saying is white should play knight to d5 and just attack the. It's the best move. The engine's agreeing it's the best move, and you can't take the knight because a bishop takes rook into mezzo, right? Into mezzo. So, or an in-between move, right? So, knight d5 was a better move than bishop to h4. He played bishop e7, gets a star move for that. So I just decided to move my bishop there. Got a question mark. It says bishop takes f6 was best, which is what he's going to force me to do anyway. So he played knight to b6. So it took the knight off, and he took with the bishop, recaptured with the bishop. He took with the bishop. He recaptured with the bishop. And I thought, well, in this position, it's all about dominating the white squares. So let's go. Knight d5 I played. Remember, I got less than 2 minutes to play this game. So that's my excuse anyway. So he took the knight off, and they thought, oh, well, he's probably thinking I've got to take with the bishop because I'll lose this pawn here. But I was happy to give him a pawn to attack his king. So I took with the queen, and the engine says it's an inaccuracy and bishop takes d5 was best. Okay, and I'll show you why I did it. He took with the pawn. I played rook there. Star move, best move. So I've still got 4, 5, 6 pawns. He's got 6 pawns. But I've got activated rooks. Now, he can't take this pawn. If he takes that pawn, right, I can play rook to b1, and he can't stop the checkmate with the queen and the rook attacking the b pawn. So he can't touch this pawn. And so he'd have to make a move like here, which is queen's in an awkward position, right? And which he plays. So I played rook c4. I decided I'd activate a piece. Played queen to b5. And now it looks a bit silly. I thought to myself, oh, it looks a bit silly. Why did they give away a pawn? Anyway, so I doubled the rooks, and I thought, well, you take my queen, you silly bugger, right? He took it, best move, bishop takes. Now he can change rooks. I didn't like that. So I didn't want to get both rooks off the board, because if we exchange all the rooks off the board, I can't win. So I played b3 and got a star move for that, and he took the rook. Mistake, but I recaptured with the pawn. So now remember in the early part of the game I was talking about the importance of this square d5 and talking about this bad bishop, right, and this good bishop. Bad bishop because the bishop looks like a pawn. It does. It's got no maneuverability at all. Okay, so he played pawn there. And I thought, well, I'll just play f3. Get a question mark for that move. Said bishop e6 was better. The reason bishop e6 is a better move is it stops the rook here, right? So the rook can go here and push a pawn, and position is probably a draw. But I've got 1 minute and 18 seconds. He's got 1 minute 27 seconds. So he played king c7 wrong. And now so I played king f2. It's an excellent move. It's almost as good as the best move, which was g3. Excuse me. Right, So he played a4, a5. So I played a4 to just restrict. This way, there's no way for the king to get through. Right, the king can't come through those white squares. Can't push a pawn. Everything is locked down. It's almost like there's a COVID outbreak on the chessboard. So we've got a lockdown. That's my joke. Sorry. Okay, so I played rook e1. I don't know what for. Time, probably. Just time. Right, rook h1 was better. I mean, how would you have found that? So he played bishop to g5. And I played rook to d1. Just trying to gain some time. I gained 8 seconds there because he did play a bishop to f6, which was a mistake. He should have given me a check or something. So I played g3, which is the best move, star move. Isn't it good when you find a star move or a best move in a blitz game when you're so short of time and you've only got a minute left? It's a sense of satisfaction. So in this position, I thought to myself, well, I need to find a way to a plan to try to break through, and I couldn't see anything except maybe this little walk. This was my plan. I spotted this. King here, king there, king there, king there, and king here. So that was my plan that I spotted at this time, 1 minute on my clock. So I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 king moves, and that's my plan. So I'm thinking 5 moves ahead, and every one of them's a king move, right? Okay. And this is how you think with endgames, right? You've got to think of a way. How do you break through in this position? So I played pawn there, which is a duffer's move. I could have started my king manoeuvring, but I thought I'll play pawn there first and limit the square of his bishop, right? Anyway, he played rook there. He's on my pawn. So I thought I'll just go back and defend it, right? And then he moved bishop there. Now he's trying to gain on the clock. He's got 44 seconds. Now watch what happens. He's just moving backwards and forwards thinking I can't break through. So I play king here, right? He plays bishop there. I play king here. Exclamation mark, the engine says. He plays bishop back. I play king up. So I'm coming forwards. He doesn't know what to do. He moves his bishop back. I king up again. He played rook back. I played king up again. So he had a few pre-moves. Now he's getting worried. He used 7 seconds on his last move. So he was worried about my king penetration, right? So now I play rook here, right? That's to protect the h-pawn so I can push the pawn if he makes a mistake, right? So I played bishop there, cut off his king. It might have actually even been better to play king here. But no, the engine says h5 is the best move, pawn here, right? But I played bishop there anyway, and he played rook here because he's trying to mark time. He's running short of time. He's got 25 seconds on his clock, and I've got 32 seconds. But wasn't it easier for me to find my plan? Remember, I had that 5 king move plan, and so you save a lot of time thinking of a sharp plan like that. It's not complicated, and all the moves are easy to find. So I gave him a check when he put his rook on the wrong square, and then he moved his king, and I took his rook off, okay? He took back. He's thinking, well, we're both short of time, but I've still got my plan, and his pawns are still on the bad squares. His bishop's on a bad square. It looks like a pawn. I'm going to play this move. There it comes. G5, attacking his bishop. So he takes a pawn, I recapture, and then he gives up, right? Because he knows that he can't stop the plan of rook to the 7th rank, and rook takes pawn, and these 2 pawns here on f5 and g5 will make queens, okay? He's just too far behind in development of his king to mount any problems at all, okay? So that's a bit of an instructive way that we managed to win a game that was basically looked very much the draw, but we found a plan. And so it just goes to show you the importance of finding a plan in any position, right? And you can find these plans if you understand the basics of endgame positions. You can find these plans and you can nut out so many moves in a row. Okay, we'll go to the next game. Right, so going back here, I'll just go, as I said, I'm looking at games played with players 2200. The next game I'm going to show you is a draw. I'm going to show you a draw. So I didn't win this game. It was a draw, but I did play with 91.7% accuracy. So full credit to my opponent. He got a draw. His name was Davitel. And Davitel is from Serbia, and he played very well. Played at quite a high rate of here we go. Here we have the game. D5 by Davitel. I took the pawn, right? So I opened up with E4. He played D5. That's a Scandinavian defense. So I took the pawn off. And he played queen takes. So I attacked his queen. And he moved his queen back, right? And this is all theory. It's the Mises-Kotrick variation. So I played knight to F3. So now I've got two knights, two minor pieces working. And he correctly brings out one of his minor pieces, okay, to control central squares, with a view to moving his king's bishop at some stage. Might take him two more moves, and then to castle, okay. So I played D4. I thought I'll go and get some space, okay. See what the engine says here. The engine said I played with 91.7% accuracy. My opponent played with 87%, right? Anyway, so I played queen takes knight, hits queen back, knight there, and D4. Played E6, he chose E6. It's a good move, not a mistake, not the best move either, but it's a good move. So I played bishop C4. Again, put my bishop on a square where I'm attacking the opponent's central square, D5. Gives me the option of playing D5. And I just castle, prepare to castle. So the bishop moving out to C4 is really a clear, what we call a clearing move. So the bishop's not blocking the king from castling. That's what it's really all about. And the bishop on C4 is fairly safe. So he played bishop E7, good solid move. And then I castled, and he castled. So I thought, well, I'll just play bishop G5. I didn't have any other ideas. It says I had a better way to develop a piece. If I had my move again, I'd probably play rook E1 or queen to E2. I like queen E2. See what the engine says about rook E1. I actually like queen E2 as well. So yeah, you got that rook E1 and you got queen E2. The idea of playing queen E2 would be if the queen goes here, then control the E5 square. And then this rook that I put on E1, you can actually put on D1, right? It says bishop F4 is best. There you go. So the best move is bishop F4. So we have one piece that's not working. That's its diagonal at the moment. But once the bishop goes here, it's covering all these squares. All right. It's covering a bigger range. It's got more range of power. Computers recognize this sort of stuff straight away. Anyway, so I played bishop there. Played B6. Good move. H6 was better. He could have just chased my bishop. So I took his knight off. I thought, well, I'll try to attack on the white squares. He recaptured with his bishop. I played knight E4. Star move, best move according to the engine. And he played bishop to E7. He should have developed his minor piece. And when you look at this position, one thing that you notice is that all these pieces here, they're all on the back rank, right? They're all on the back rank. White wants to play Queen E2 and clear the rooks for action, the heavy artillery. Okay, so I played D5. It's inaccuracy. Queen E2. See the arrow? That was my original intention, but I thought I'll just confuse him because it's a lightning game. He took the pawn, and I played Queen takes pawn. I thought that might confuse you, Sonny. And the other thing I'm thinking is that it might encourage him to play pawn here, and at the same time, I might get a rapid attack with Knight E5 with the bishop on the pawn. See? So that's the plan. He captured, I captured. He played C6. Best move. I moved my bishop back. I should have went to C4 apparently. The engine likes the bishop to go to C4. You know why? Because the engine doesn't like this move. Right? Bishop here. Okay. Right. Right. So he played knight there, and I thought, whoopee doos. That doesn't seem to do anything. So I played my knight forwards. Remember I said my knight and bishop might combine on that square? Okay, but I'm also threatening knight takes pawn. So this is a real problem for him. Anyway, he played his bishop there and he developed his bishop. So I played rook to D1. Okay, now it's very interesting in this type of position to try to find a way to survive. Look at White's next threat. Rook here, attacking two bishops, right? Attacking two bishops. So it's a big, powerful move. So he played knight to C5, right? Now I took the knight, exclamation mark. At this stage there, I'm doing very, very well, okay? He took with a bishop, that's the best move. It was then that I played knight takes pawn, and the engine said question mark, exclamation mark, it's an inaccuracy. And the engine says that bishop takes pawn check is a better move. Right? Okay. Because now if he plays with the rook takes bishop, I just recapture, and then I will check him, right? I'll rook check him and win his piece down there, okay? All right, so go back. Knight takes pawn. So then he played bishop hits rook. And then I looked at the position, I thought, well, I've stolen a pawn, and yes, I'm doing well, but hold on, I can't seem to attack any of his rooks. And so I've got a sort of a slightly deficient position. And I can try to start winning, but I didn't like the fact that now his rook and his bishop are combining on my f-pawn. And I thought, I've got 2 minutes. He's got 2 minutes and 7 seconds. My rating's 21.66. He's 21.50. Why should I do anything? So I gave him a check. And I thought, I'll just see what he does. And he moved his king, so I gave him another check. And he moved there, and I gave him a check over there. And then I gave him one more check, and he moved king back, and that's a draw by perpetual check. Not perpetual check, but it's basically a draw. Repetition of moves. And as we say with the review, I played at 91.7% accuracy. I could easily have won that game, but decided to be a bit of a chicken. And I decided I'd just be satisfied with the material win that I got, right? and just taking the draw and moving on to my next game. Okay, so we'll get into another game now. We'll see what we can do. We'll go back into the archive. I've already put some of the games in there. Right, so we're choosing games with a high rate of accuracy. So we're going to look at the game Magician versus, here it is here, Magician versus Harold Dovendam. He's 2,215, and Harold is from the Netherlands. Okay, he's from the Netherlands, and we'll just see how the game goes. Played e4, played c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, a6. Okay, so we've got that Sicilian defense, the open variation. Oh, did I show you this game already? Have I showed you this game? I'm not sure. Anyway, knight f5, takes the pawn, and we showed you this game, so we're sorry about that. We'll get back to the archives. Harold Dovendam, I thought I showed you that. Okay, so we'll go back. And what about this one here? Here we showed you that. We showed you this one. Oh, that's Harold Dovendam too. Oh, isn't that interesting? So I played virtually the same game That's really interesting, huh? Okay. All right then. So we'll look at our game versus Miller the Slayer, right? We'll look at Miller the Slayer. I played with 96.9% accuracy. So it might be an interesting game for you to have a look at. Okay, or for both of us to have a look at together. Right. This is Miller the Slayer. Right, review. And yeah, 96.9%. Okay, so I played knight to f6, replied to his English type opening with c4. Played d4, so we've got a queen's pawn, and I played c5. Okay, go back to analysis here. This is the Benko Gambit, fully accepted, right? So it's a fully accepted Benko Gambit. He played d5, and I played b5. And if anyone that read up about me, they would know that I often took up the Benko Gambit after meeting Grandmaster Walter Sean Brown when I was a young man. I met him, and I was amazed by the way he could play lightning chess within a 1 minute game, and I was basically a complete novice compared to him, right? He wasn't a grandmaster at that time, but at the time I met him, he was only very, very young, and he just came over from America to play in the Australian Chess Championship, and I met him in the park, in the local Hyde Park in the middle of the city with some chess pieces, and he wanted to play for $1 a game. It was a fair amount of money in those days. I took a pawn, I played a6, and then he plays knight c3. That's a book move, right? I took his pawn off, and now he recaptured with the knight. Now that really helps black. It's an easy way for black to play this position. I just attacked his knight. Now, why did I attack his knight with his bishop? Because occasionally some people will make this mistake. They'll push the pawn. Some beginners will push the pawn and try to protect the knight. Well, you just take it off. And when the bishop takes back, you just give a check, you win a piece. Isn't that easy? So that's how you can win a chess game with the Benko Gambit. Nice little Benko Gambit trick, right? Okay, so he played knight takes pawn, hit his knight. So now we know he can't play e3, can he? So our engine's suggesting that knight to e4 was better, right? And then knight to c3 is played, and now it's a book move. So apparently the positions are equal again. I played d6, he played g3, okay? And I played g6. So I want to fan shadow my bishop, which is standard in the Benko Gambit, to put pressure along this diagonal towards the b pawn. Right, that b pawn down there. And remember, you've got to open, semi-open file to attack the b pawn. Okay. And bishop b2 is played. Bishop g2, bishop g7. Following our main idea, our main plan. He played knight f3. I castled. And now he's castled too. So we've both completed our development. And black's given up a pawn for active play. So I played knight there, and that's a book move. That's a developing move. It's a clearing move, because when the knight moves here like that, the rooks and queen can combine at the back, and we can obviously play a queen a5 and rook to b8 and all the Grandmaster Sean Brown type little tricks. So he plays bishop to f4. Now here we go. The engine's given this as a star move, as the best move. And I thought it was a bad move. I was happy that he played it. So it's actually the best move. I should apparently hit that bishop with my knight, but I didn't. So I played a downright good move, but not a great move. And he played rook e1. Now, notice his b pawn is a bit loose. So I attacked it. Right, I attacked his b pawn, and then he played queen to c2. He wanted to defend his b pawn. So what do I do here? I want to continue attacking. So I thought to myself, I would love to take this pawn. I'd love to take that pawn. So I played knight there, right? Now it doesn't do much at all, except for one variation where if he plays e4. Well, he can play e4 now. It's not good. But if he played e4, I had the option of going here and knight there, knight e5 and knight d6, which probably leads to nothing. But so anyway, I did that to confuse him. I've got 2 minutes on my clock, and Miller the Slayer, 1,946 rating from Peru, city of all the ancient architecture. Yeah, so he's played h3. He thought, oh, I'll send that knight packing. I'm not worried about that knight. I'll just send it away, and it goes in the middle. I might take it off or something like that. But what he didn't look at was okay, he's attacking something, but he was neglecting what my next move might be, right? So I played rook takes pawn. Remember, I played this game with something like 98% accuracy or something, right? I think it was 98% accuracy, right? So I played rook takes pawn, and the chess engine has given me a double exclamation mark. A double exclamation mark, right? Right, so now I've got two pieces on prise. He can take the rook, and he can take the knight, but if he takes the knight, he'll lose his coin. So what does he do? Well, he's got to make a decision. He decides to take the rook. Good choice, good choice. But I follow up with bishop takes knight. And this is one of the whole points of the Benko Gambit, if you're playing beginners, to get the queen and the bishop to combine on the c6 square after taking a b pawn, right? If it's neglected by the opponent. So it's very important to overprotect that b pawn. So he played queen to c1. Now I thought to myself, what do I do here? I didn't really want to take his rook. I don't want to take his rook because he might take back with the queen. He's still on my knight and he's got this nasty move here threatening a checkmate. I didn't like all that. So you know what I did? I can still take any rook I like, can't I? Right? So I decided to play knight here as a trap move. Yes, it's a trap because you can think, oh, great, you can move your bishop back here and change bishops and you can save the rook. And this is what he did. But he gets a double question mark because I simply take a knight with check, ignore the bishop again, ignore the two rooks, and now, because it's a Swiss rook, an in-between move with check, now he's got to take back, and now I can take the bishop. And now instead of my bishop attacking this rook and this rook, I'm now attacking the queen and the rook, right? So the nightmare never ends for him, right? And all black has done is just got his pieces out. Black has never been threatened in this game. All black's done is attack with virtually almost every move. So this is an ideal opening, the Benko Gambit or the Blumenfeld Gambit, or it's also called the Volga Gambit, right? Okay. And it's got a whole lot of names. And yeah, so in his position now, he's got, if you've got a low-rated player, it's not a bad opening to choose to play against them if you can get it. So I took the rook, queen takes, queen, rook takes. Now here I had to come up with a move. So I put my bishop there and I thought, oh, you beauty, I'll just go there. I've got an extra piece and I'm threatening rook takes pawn. Okay? Not that I want the pawn straight away. I'd rather play knight here and take the pawn off and have all my pieces active, right? Anyway, I played knight there. I thought, well, I don't have to take the pawn. I can protect my bishop and threaten his bishop. Now, if his bishop moves, I can then take the e pawn because I can get this pawn here down here, the a pawn, any time I like because I've got two on it, right? So he played knight back and I played bishop takes the e pawn. Now I'm still on the a pawn. So he goes and protects it, right? So I played rook a3. Now that stops him pushing the a pawn, right? Because we block it all up. And then he played g4. Well, what do we do then? We just go with the back with the bishop, and now we're threatening the a pawn again. Do you notice how I've got 5, 6, 7 pawns? No, 6 pawns, and he's only got 5. He's going to lose a few more pawns the way he's going. Anyway, he played pawn there, so I thought, well, I'll play knight here, because now in this position, I'm threatening the f pawn as well. So I'm threatening knight takes f pawn, knight takes d pawn, rook takes pawn, and with all that, that's the end of the game, right? So he resigned. That was how we beat Miller the Slayer in 1946. Okay, so let's get back to the archive. And I thought that was a decent game to show you against Miller the Slayer. Now, I played a few other games that were of some interest. There's a nice little checkmate finish here in an endgame, but I played at 88.4%. But I might show it to you, go through it very quickly with you. Right, so we'll go through it very, very quickly, and won't take up too much of your time on this one. It's a nice little checkmate at the end. So we've got a middle endgame theme in this game, and so we'll get through the opening fairly quickly. He played g5, g4. Yeah, it's the Grob opening, G-R-O-B, the Grob opening, right? So the whole idea with this opening is to push your pawn down to G4, deflect any knight that might be here, get your bishop fair and shadow really quickly and attack through down there like the blazers, right? So that's the plan. I played D5 and I thought, well, right, I'll try to stop the plan. I'll counter the plan before it happens. So I'm threatening bishop takes pawn, right? So he played bishop there. Now, if you take this pawn, he'll play C4 and try to attack your structure, right? That's his plan with his Grob opening. So you know what I did? I just protected my pawn and said, well, come on, you've got to protect your pawn. So he protected it. And so I just brought my bishop out and I thought, well, I'll just develop pieces and just try to navigate my way through. So I want to get rid of that pawn. I thought if he's silly enough, he might give it to me. So I thought, well, just see what he does. He played pawn there, so I took the pawn off. He recaptured. I just thought I'll just change rooks. So I've got a reasonably easy game as black, and I just played E6. Now my bishop is a bad bishop. This is a bad bishop, this bishop, because all this pawn structure inhibits the bishop's line. So white's got a reasonably good game or a better game, right? He played E4, and I thought that was wrong, but in actual fact it could be right. And anyway, he took a pawn. He recaptured, so I changed queens, and I thought, well, I'm happy with that because I've got an endgame. He took with a king, and I thought, oh, gee, now I've got to be careful here. I've got 4 minutes 28. He's got 4 minutes 31, so I took the bishop all the way back so he wouldn't be able to get a tempo hitting me, right, with, say, knight here and knight there attacking my bishop if my bishop's here. So I'm thinking ahead there, a couple of moves. He played knight c3, and I thought, what do I do? What do I do? So I thought, well, I'll just get my bishop there and threaten the pawn. If you can develop a piece and attack at the same time, it's usually not too bad. And he can't push the pawn because he'll lose his knight, won't he? Right? So we've developed a piece and we're attacking something. So he played king there. Excellent move. It's probably the best move on the board. I'm sure the engine will give him a star move for that. So I played e5. Why did I play e5? Well, I've got to try to fix a pawn in the centre. The grandmasters will tell you in their chess training videos, it's really important that you control central squares and not give your opponent any outposts. Not only that, it blocks his bishop, right? See, his bishop is blocked. I'm trying to get... I played knight there. I could have taken his bishop, but I thought, oh, why help his king up one square? I'll play knight to d7, and if he takes the bishop, I'll take the knight, and he still hasn't got his king on e3. Okay, so he played knight f6. Now he can take the bishop. So he's actually threatening to take the bishop, and if my knight takes, he takes the pawn in the middle, and he'd be winning easily. So I took his bishop. He recaptured with the king, and I played knight to e7. So I've developed all my pieces, and I'll tell you at this stage, he played bishop there. Now, I was looking, I didn't like rook here, right? I'll be frank, I did not like this move, because this bishop's bad, right? It's a bad bishop. So I played f6. I thought, well, I'll try to lure his rook in. And he didn't move his rook, and he played bishop there, and I thought, hello, what's that for? So I played f5. I thought to myself, I might take this opportunity to try to save, to get rid of my bishop. To get rid of my bishop. My bad bishop, he's helping me. So I'm going to try to get rid of my bad bishop. And he took the pawn. So I took with my bad bishop, and suddenly my bishop's alive. Maybe it was better to take with the knight, do you think? Well, I took with the bishop anyway. And he took, and I recaptured. So now if he plays his king forwards, I can give him a dirty big knight check here, right? And then he's got to go back. So he gains nothing. So what does he do? He moves his king back anyway as a preventative measure. We're playing it. His name on chess.com is 11967. He's 2,200 rating and he's from Israel. And he's got to be respected because, as I say, a 2,200 player is, you've got to really respect them. So in this position, we've got one of those classical endgames. And we've only got 2 minutes and 26 seconds to try to play the game. So I castled. So I put my king in a modicum of safety. There's a downside to this, and that is my king can't support my pawn structure or my knight over here. That's the downside to castling. Another move might have been king here. It's with the idea of coming here and attacking a pawn. It's probably a better move, but I castled there. Shock value more than anything else. And with possibly the idea of a knight check, I'm not really thinking that I have any advantage whatsoever. In actual fact, I tend to sort of like white's position. I played king c7 to stop the knight d6 check in some variations. He played c3, unnecessary, but it's a solid move. I played knight back to d6. I thought I've got to get rid of one of these knights, and maybe I can just get my king up, I'll be all right. He took the knight, I took with the king, and now my king is showing that. Notice I castled. Didn't I say to you earlier? I castled, and then now I've realised, hold on, my king belongs over there on the other side of the board. So I'm going for a walk. It's like a Monopoly game, take a walk on the boardwalk. Do not pass go and do not collect $200. That's if you're a Monopoly player. So I realised I've got to get my king up. So I played knight there. Point being, if he plays king here, I can play knight to here, defend my pawn and come back to d6 check, right? That was the plan. So he played b3. Now he probably does want to play king e4. So I've got to come up with a different plan now. So what did I do? I played knight checks. I'm on the pawn, right? And he moved king back. He defended his pawn. Now I can't make any checks that are any good. So I played a knight check back here, right? And now he's threatening my knight. If he makes any move, he threatens a knight. So he played king there. And I played knight here this time. I thought, that's a different move. And I'll show you what my little plan was. My plan is simply to play king up here and try to take that pawn off. It's a bit ambitious and a bit, he saved that pawn. So I played king here. Now, do you notice that my king had castled? Then my king wanders all around the board, and ends up on f5 anyway. So I could have saved 3 or 4 moves if I just played king to f7 the first time rather than castle queenside. Okay, so he played g6. Right? He wants me to take this pawn so he can just take the e pawn and draw easily. But no such way, buddy. I might only have 1 minute and 19 seconds, and you might have 2 minutes and 14 seconds. You might be a whole 2 rating points. Yes, he was. He was 2 rating points higher than me. But I dug in, right? I really wanted to play king here. But I saw the damn rook check, right? Rook h4 check. And I thought, oh, I don't like that. So I played knight check here. And I saw a mating net. I can see that I'm on the pawn, and with the knight check, I can see I'm on the pawn. So I'm on this pawn, and I'm on this pawn, okay? And let's see what transpires. He plays king forwards. So I thought, I can see a checkmate there. So this is what I did. I pushed the pawn forwards. Can you see a checkmate? That was my plan. My plan was never to take this pawn. right? My plan was to push this pawn so I could checkmate him in the middle of the board. So now it's his move. Now the correct move is probably knight here to stop the rook checkmate. But he's got a bad game anyway. What does he do? Because this pawn's on prise, and then I'll have an extra pawn, so black's winning the game, okay? So what does he do? Well, he gives me a check, right? So I thought, what do I do here? So I thought, well, I'll just play, if I play king here, you know what he'll do? He'll play pawn to f4 check, right? And then that way it gives him a square on f7, okay? So I thought, oh, I don't want to encourage him to play good moves. So I play king here. So he can't think of the check because the check's not there. So now I'm threatening something, right? So, but he's got to find the right move. So he played rook there. So now I give him the check here. And the whole point is that when he goes up here, I can play knight check there, okay? And now when he takes the pawn, or that he resigned, but now if he takes the pawn, because he didn't get checkmated, but I take the rook and I'm actually protecting my rook, right? So, yeah, rook and pawn, I thought that was a very instructive example of how you can play chess, right? Which in a game which looks like a like a not very interesting type of position, but in actual fact there was so much in that end game that it bears further investigation, right? And it's usually that person that can see a little bit deeper or be a little bit more cunning and mischievous, like I was, that comes out on top. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that game against 11967, 2200 rating from Israel. Okay, so we'll just see if we can find one more game, and we have got one there for you. We've got a game against Seabass. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got a nice game here against Seabass. I'll try to remove this quickly. Right. And the game against Seabass, I only played this game today. He's 2189, 2189 for the United States, Seabass 927. And the magician here for the purpose of this game is 2208. So I've just broken through the 2200 mark again. Anyway, played e4, got the white pieces against Seabass. Knight c5, knight f3, Sicilian defence, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, attacking the pawn. It's considered the most aggressive move. Knight c3, defending the pawn, the e-pawn. G6. Now, this is the interesting move, right? He wants to fee and shadow his bishop. It's not usually done. It's like a dragon. You know, I played bishop c4. He played bishop g6. I moved my bishop back, right? He castled. I played f3. This is just to protect the pawn structure. He played knight c6 and I played bishop e3. So in this position, we have a classic Sicilian defence accelerated dragon, right? He played bishop d7, I played queen d2, and he played rook c8. Now, I'll tell you one of the secrets that, not one of the secrets about me. I always remember when I get to this type of position about what Bobby Fischer did in a game where he castled queenside, and he allowed knight to e5 and knight to c4. And most people take the knight when it gets there. But Bobby played a move like queen d3 after castles. And eventually got a massive attack with h4, h5. And it was one of the most brilliant games I'd ever seen. Anyway, I castled, remembering what Bobby did. He played knight e5. I played king here. This is what Bobby did. He played rook e8. Now, this is an interesting move. It's probably a very strong move too. It's a very good move. In this position, I'm looking at all sorts of combinations and stuff that I can do down here on f7. I really want to play h4 and h5, but I'm running a bit slow on trying to get going. I can't play f4 and attack his knight because he's got knight hits bishop, and it's just, black would be destroyed, right? Or even f4 knight to c4, black would be destroyed. So I've got to play another move. So I played h4, Bobby Fischer style, and he played h5, and then I thought, well, I'll just shove my bishop over there and attack his bishop. Now, I'm looking at all sorts of silly ideas, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at silly things like this. I'll show you. Knight here, queen here, knight check. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. So I was looking at something that doesn't work. Okay. So I played bishop h6. He took the bishop, queen takes. He played rook takes knight. Now this is one of the main lines in this type of position where you sacrifice on the c3 square, and you just build up your game with queen a5 and or a4 and a5, and black gets a really good game, right? And the queen is misplaced over there. Of course, what we would like to do is chase this knight away so we can play queen takes pawn check, because the bishop would be pinning the pawn, right? Anyway, he took the rook, recaptured. He played queen a5. He straight away is on his attack. What he simply wants to do is to take this pawn off and play knight here, threatening checkmate, right? Threatening checkmate there. And then he just busts my whole queen side open. My king is naked, so I thought, well, I better push a pawn. I thought I better give him a pawn and push a pawn. He took the pawn off, and I thought, oh no, none of this works. It's not going to work. Anyway, so I took a pawn off, and he played knight takes pawn, right? And now, oh gee, this is a stupid way to play, isn't it? It's my move, and so I played f4. I thought, well, I'll try to attack his knight in the middle. It's probably not the best move. The best move is probably something like rook here, right? With the idea of rook takes pawn check, right? And rook here also threatens queen takes knight. So rook here would threaten queen takes knight. It would threaten rook takes pawn check, okay? Okay. So I think that's a better move. I played this stupid move. Anyway, he played knight there. Now he's threatening checkmate. Look at the big checkmate. And I think, oh, well, what am I going to do there? So I had to take his thing off and take his bishop off. He took with a queen. And then I could see, oh no, he's going to play a move like bishop here. Oh. So I didn't like that. And I've got 2 minutes and 58 seconds. He's got 4 minutes and 25 seconds on the clock. Okay, and by the way, I played this game at 90-something% accuracy. I played f5. All right. Now, f5, right? So now this stops bishop here, right? Because if he checks me, I'll just put my knight back, right? Oh, no. If he checks me here, I can just put the knight. What am I doing? Yeah, so if he checks me there, I can just put the knight back there, right? Okay. So I thought, oh, maybe I've just slowed him down a little bit. He gave me a check, so I put the knight back because I'm forced to. Then he played queen takes pawn. So here is where I've got to do something really quick and it better be good. So I took the pawn off. The whole point is he can't take with the queen, can he? Because might play rook to g1. Yeah, I'll play rook here, and then he'll lose the game. He'll be pinned. His king will be pinned. Or he might be able to play bishop g4. Oh no, I'll play rook on the h file to g1. Anyway, I'll show you what happened. He took with the pawn. He's a bit frightened of taking with the queen. And so that's where he went wrong. Because I play rook hits queen. And now I'm threatening queen takes pawn check. And I'm threatening rook takes queen. So he's only got one square. Oh, he could have played queen here, right? But then I could play rook to g1, threatening rook to g5, and he didn't like that. So he played queen here. He wanted to just put his knight back here or something. I think he had some ideas. So I took a pawn with check, played the knight back, and then I've got to find a good move to finish him off. So I played rook to g1, right? And he played queen to c6. And he's protecting his knight, right? And I've got to win. So I pushed the pawn on towards attacking the knight, knowing full well that I've got him covered here. And he moved his king away. So I gave him a check, right? And then he went back, and then I played queen to g5. Now, there's a real good reason for this, this move, and that is I've effectively moved from here to here. But on this square, watch what happens. He played rook there. He's now threatening this pawn, right? But now I can play rook here. So admittedly, when my queen was here, I was holding a pawn. But this is actually more attacking, because when I hold the pawn there, I'm actually threatening rook here. 3 tripling up on his knight, okay? So he played king in the corner, and then all I have to do now is give him a check with the queen, right? King goes back. It's almost like a triangulation in an endgame. And then he plays, I play rook there, and then he resigns. I played bishop there, but rook takes knight check, and mate next move. King must go here, and that's checkmate, right? And that's what would have happened. So all his attack, which looks good, comes to nothing. But it's only because he misplayed it. He did have the idea of the opening, the accelerated dragon. He had the right idea to sacrifice on c3, but he didn't know how to follow it up. So when you do study your openings and you've got the right idea, like Seabass did, what you have to do is you've got to play through a few grandmaster games that have been played with the same positions to get used to all the problems that are created, right? And yeah, so that way you learn a lot, and the experience of knowing of practicing in those types of difficult situations might just get you the extra oomph to get you home in complications. Okay, rightio. So now we're going to go to archive once more. We're going to get rid of Seabass, get rid of Miller the Slayer, right? And yeah, so we're going to have a look at Sanchez. Now, I played Sanchez. Okay, so when we played Sanchez, right, we played with a massive 90-something% accuracy. Okay, so we played Sanchez. Now, Sanchez is rated 2202, and he's from Uruguay. Yes, Sanchez-P from Uruguay, and the Magician 2216 for the purposes of this game, right? There's the review. We'll just have a look at the review. 91.6% accurate. There you go. Okay, my opponent played with about 73% accuracy, and the engine said that was an intense, serious game. Okay, so the engine was impressed, if no one else wasn't. Yeah, the engine was impressed with my play. So C5, so we have a Sicilian, a KAN, a knight variation. So E6, D4 takes, and A6. That's a book move. And you know who plays this position all the time? Yeah, Grandmaster Eric Hansen, the chess bra, the man that beat Carlsen in the Invitational. Knight C3, Queen C7, F4, and Eric Hansen's also beaten quite a few other top players. He's a strong grandmaster, and he got some good results in his Carlsen Invitational. And no doubt they'll probably want him to play again in some of those big invitational only tournaments. Gotham Chess refers to him as Eric Handsome, and he says, oh, they're going to have one handsome bloke in there somewhere, so they've chosen that Eric Handsome, but it's Eric Hansen, right, from Canada. If he comes into my channel, I always play "Oh Canada," the national anthem. Anyway, so he played B5, and I played Bishop E2. Again, a blitz game, 5-minute game. This one, not a 3-minute game. This is a 5-minute game. I should play Bishop D3, but I had this idea in my head that I wanted to play Bishop F3 and E5 at any cost. And surely it nearly cost me too. But I understood the position, and my opponent didn't have the knight to A5, A4 I played. Star move, best move. Played bishop there, and I played bishop here. And again, the engine says bishop D3 is correct. So my whole idea of playing bishop to F3 was wrong. That's right. And yet I still achieved 91% accuracy. Why? Because I had a plan and I stuck to it, right? He played knight F6. I played queen D3, okay? And my plan is to play E5. I also know that I've played a faulty opening. I know and I recognise that. And I know I've got to play C4, right? But I'm not going to play C4 straight away. I'd rather, I'm envisaging that I want to play these moves, right? So I'm thinking ahead 3 moves, and I'm thinking, well, I want to complete my development, number 1, right? Bishop E3. Oops. I want to complete my development, bishop E3, number 1. Engine says I should have played queen E2. Right? Okay. So I want to play bishop E3. I also want to play rook C1, right? When my bishop vacates the square. And I want to play a C4 or C3 and try to belt that queen on the C file, right? That's my plan, right? From my faulty opening. Black's position is very fluid. It's beautiful. If I was playing Eric Hansen, Grandmaster Hansen, he would smash me playing shit like this. Excuse the language. Anyway, he played D5. Looks like a very good move. I played E4, and he played knight there. So, my plan, develop my bishop. You don't capture the knight and improve his position and give him plenty of squares and to operate on. He played knight B5 to D7. Good move. It says knight to D7 is good. So knight C6 is best. So there you go. So the best move was knight here. Okay, so it's only a slight deviation. I actually thought his move was great. Anyway, played knight D7. And then I castle. I completed my development, right? I thought it was very important the castle here. He should play knight on the E4 square to C5. So I played rook C1. It says C3 is best. So the engine wants to play C3 as quick as possible. Right, so he played knight there, so I thought I'll take his knight off. And he took back with the knight, so I thought, well, I just slipped my queen back there. Star move, best move. I've achieved all my goals in this position. Okay, I've achieved all my goals. I'm actually threatening queen takes pawn. My opponent played knight back to e4. I thought, well, I'll take it. I got a star move for that. And he took back, and now it's my move. So I thought, well, I'll play c4. I should play c3. But you know what? In this position, I've got 2 minutes and 52 seconds left. My opponent's got 4 minutes left. And I thought to myself, if I play here, it could be a pussy move. That's what I'm thinking. The 2 bishops look deadly to me. So I thought, well, I better play pawn here, and I might just threaten pushing a pawn down there and having him choke on my pawn. So that's what I thought. I actually thought that. So I played c4. And he took the pawn off. So I took with the queen. I should take with the rook according to the engine, but I still scored 91% accuracy. You're going to love this finish. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to love me. You really will. You're going to donate to my YouTube channel. You really will. You'll be throwing money into my PayPal. I tell you. He took the queen. So I recaptured with the rook because I've got to have the open file. I need the open file, right? Now here he makes a little mistake. It was a big mistake. Shh, don't tell him. He played rook there, double question mark. He was so confident that he had the 2 bishops. He's 2200 rating, and he's so confident he had the 2 bishops. So I took the rook off, right, with check. Exclamation mark. The engine gives me an exclamation mark. The engine loves me today. This is the last game. One of the prettiest. He took the bishop, and so I thought, well, bang, hit his bishop really quickly. I made the move as quick as I could, hoping for a mistake. And he played king d7. Right? You might not see my next move, but this is the move I played. Star move, knight to c6. And it says white's winning. Well, can you see what I'm looking at? Can you see what I'm threatening? Well, he didn't. My opponent didn't see it. He played bishop to b7. So I gave him a check, and I got exclamation mark from the engine, right? And then he thought, oh my God, I don't like that. So he played king there. So a star move, it's still the best move, but then my bishop comes check, right? Okay. Now what does he do? Well, he plays king there. So what do I do next? Rook hits bishop. Can you see a square for his bishop? I can't see a square for his bishop, but he found one, so I checkmated him. Isn't that shocking? But the game could have ended a different way, right? I'll show you. He played king there, and then I checkmated him with the bishop. Isn't that pretty? So my bishop came right into it at the end, and this is one of those rare occasions where the bishop and knight smashed up the 2 bishops. That's right. Normally everyone says, oh, you've got to have the 2 bishops. You've got to have the 2 bishops. But because it was like a semi-closed position and my pieces were more proactive and his rook was stuck in the corner, then he suffered an ignominious defeat. It's a long word, isn't it? An ignominious defeat. That's what it was. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. You can throw all that money into my PayPal if you like, if you want to support my channel. And I want to thank everybody else that has supported my channel. There's about 3 or 4 of them. But I'll take any donations. And please just give me the thumbs up if you can't afford to help me out. And just a thumbs up on the video channel. And if you're not subscribing to my channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel because it's free. And there's lots and lots of chess videos there for you to look at and to enjoy. Lots of very brilliant short checkmates in some of the videos, and there's tributes to grandmasters on some of the other videos. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time. If you've been here with me from the beginning to the end of this video, and you've been watching and you're keen, why don't you just come and play me on at chess.com on Twitch TV when I stream live? Okay, you just come and join me on Twitch TV, FM John Curtis Chess Channel, and you can play me. Right, you don't have to be a subscriber to play me, because I like to encourage people to play me and to learn how to play and to improve their games, and we have a lot of fun discussing all sorts of chess topics as well. So it's going to be, God bless your family. Difficult times in the world right now. People in Ukraine, droughts and floods all over the world and everything. So my heart goes out to all those people in distress. And so I wish you all the best. And until next time, to my next video, I'll say God bless. Okay? So I'm off.